You can check out Playbook Experts. They have a new YouTube channel. They didn't have it this time last year. They've got legendary handicapper Mark Lawrence, and they're going to be doing a lot of hoops coverage. So if you're into NBA, college basketball, they're going to do a lot of that during the summer before they kick back into football season. I will be doing, Mark Lawrence will be coming over to this channel to do college hoops, March Madness. So there's that. But just want to let everybody, because we are going to, in turn, edit our picks segment and post it on their channel too. So that gives us a little bit more exposure on the Playbook Experts channel. So check them out, especially, like I said, if you're a big hoops fan and like to gamble on basketball, pro and college over the next several months. Now, as we get into it, the strangest, as we take a look at the odds, and I know there's some people out, there's some places, they're all going to differentiate because there were like 3 or 4 drivers. I think when we did it, DraftKings had 4 drivers at 12-1. And some people have said, well, Ryan Blaney's a little bit of a favorite now. But I looked at Bovada, and Kyle Larson is the favorite. Now, we have said this. We said it last year, and we're going to just say it again. And look, maybe one of these years, Kyle Larson will surprise us all, and we'll have pie in our face. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but because usually you get a little taste of something, and then you go, all right, now I see. Now we'll reference that next time. Very rare that it's all of a sudden you get somebody who's just terrible at a track, and then in one race, boom, goes out and wins. So I don't see that happening. So I'm willing to, and we are all willing to take the pie in the face. Well, I shouldn't say that, because for some really weird, strange reason, CJ put Larson on his list. But that's only because CJ is his handicapping strategy is usually, especially in races like this, where there's a lot of luck involved. He goes with, I'm going to take like those first 8 picks, as far as the odds. And if I could break even, I'm going to break even. So Larson's a part of that. But you and I are not going to fall for the Kyle Larson, the Kyle Larson and the tailpipe trick, because at Daytona, because he has 5 top 10s in 17 races. Okay, great. He's never had a top 5. He's had 1 top 5 in 16 Talladega races. That's 1 top 5 in 33 races between Talladega and Daytona. He's only led 18 laps in 17 races. Last year, he had engine issues and crashed. And if people are saying, well, look, he's going to start on the front row. That's different. Maybe that's why he's 11-1 instead of 12-1. Maybe that's why he's been on the pole the last 3 races at Daytona and has led 1 lap.
Yeah.
He's no good at Daytona.
No, I would not take it if somebody gave me free money and said, here's $100, keep it, throw on Larson and win I'll say, take your $100 back.
I'd rather sprinkle it on the 70-1 to 80 to 100-1 long shots.
Kyle Larson, and granted, I'll eat crow on this, has no shot of winning Sunday. None. I have a better odds of winning Daytona 500 than Kyle Larson. 35 starts if you count Atlanta too last year, because that ran like a super speedway. 35 times he is strapped in that car, put the steering wheel on, drove off pit road, and raced at Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta super speedway. He's got 1 more top 5 than you and I do. 1. He was, like you said, 32nd and 37th last year. Do you know the last time? So I hear he's on the front row. You know the last time the guy starting second in the Daytona 500 won the Daytona 500? Starting second? 1993. 1993. Wow. So why on God's green earth do they have this guy? He should be 25 or 30-1 at best. And they're going off of his name. And then you could say, oh, the Hendrick Motorsports angle. Okay, I hear you. You know they haven't won at Daytona since 2014, right? They can qualify great. They don't ever win. So if I'm going to buy into the Hendrick has fixed their cars on race pace, and they're the ones that are going to win, I'm not going Kyle Larson. I'll go Chase Elliott. I'll go William Byron. I will not go with Kyle Larson. It's just 1 top 5. Again, he's got 1 top 5. I keep going with that. There's absolutely no reason he should be those odds. If you put him 30 or 40-1 where he should be,
that's different.
Maybe.
I still wouldn't take
But
him,
for those
but
odds,
that's different. Yeah.
no, that is one of the worst picks that you could use is Kyle Larson on a super speedway. Same with Martin Truex Jr. Those two, I have no. Truex, they finally have wisened up with him and moved him down.
And by the way, and that is the reason that I put a few bucks on him, because they moved him down.
Smart play. Yeah.
And remember too, since we're bringing up Truex, let's see, because he's like now what is he now, 40-1? 30-1.
30-1. He was 18-1 for the Coke Zero 400. So they finally moved him back.
So if you look at it, last year he actually led 11 laps in the Daytona 500 and finished in the top 10 in the Coke Sugar 400. And let's keep in mind, he does have 2 runner-ups, including the 2016 Daytona 500. And he had, which is we've repeatedly talked about anytime we bring up Truex, he actually had a really good Xfinity career at these tracks, including Daytona, which is why it was so surprising he's never been able to like kind of find his groove in the Cup Series here. So at least Truex has something to go on, where now that the odds are good, I'm throwing a few bucks on him, but no way with Larson.
No. And Truex, numerology's on the side. 19 car, February 19th, Daytona 500, 19th Daytona 500 try for him. Makes sense. Numerology's right there for him. However, he's made 73 starts at Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, and he's never won. So I still go, that's why he's better off at 30-1, where Larson should be, than where, because for years we'd show up, and Truex remarkably was 14-1, 18-1, 16-1. Like, why? He's better at 31. He's not a bad play for numerology because, again, like at 30-1, you can bet $4 and you win 120, but you're only out $4 if he doesn't. So you're not making as big of a risk as you would with, for some reason, Larson. Even yesterday at 12-1. It helped us out by him being on the front row. I'm like, thank you. That is great. Kyle Larson qualified on the front row.
Keeping in mind, again, Daytona's a luck race. We just talked about it with the Toyota situation. So look, if things work out and there's only 11 cars left because if there's wrecks all over the place and he happens to be sitting there in a great position and winds up, somehow miraculously finishing in the top 5 or by God wins the race, that's the only way. It's got to be some luck. There's, he's better off 100-1 guy that has won these races. That's how I would compare him to.
Yep, and it helped out too that Bowman again, front row, and 6 straight front row starts. Here's his finishes while he's been on the front row. Same deal: 17th, 11th, 24th, 35th, 24th. The last time the front row driver got a top 5. The pole sitter got a top 5 in the Daytona 500. The last time a top 5, 2002.
That's crazy.
The last time they won, 2001, Bill Elliott.
That's nuts.
The last time they won, 2000, Dale Jarrett.
And that was my first race.
That was
first race I ever went to.
So you brought the hex for the front row guys. From that point forward, oddly enough, I thought this trend, their stat trend, was weird yesterday when I found this. The last driver to win from the pole was Dale Jarrett in 2000. The last driver to win from second place starter, Dale Jarrett, 1993. He's the last guy, and he's long retired. So that's why it actually, for the betting market, Bowman and Larson on the front row only helps us. Because the betting world doesn't probably fully grasp still Daytona. It's a lot. Like Kyle Busch said yesterday, funny quote he had. He goes to the media center. NASCAR announces a Powerball deal, like sponsorship for the season, and there's scratch-off tickets. And Kyle Busch picked it up. He goes, I probably have a better shot of winning this than I do the Daytona 500. And he mentioned it's like a lottery now. And with that being said, the handicap, the big ones, don't know the difference. They're still learning NASCAR, so they're going to look at front row, and they're going to say, those guys are going to get the best odds. And we're going to say, I'm laughing all the way to the bank. Because trends say they're not going to win, and their stats,
that's
just
the key.
General say they're not going to win. So
Bowman's
there's
no better.
a lot of value.
Bowman, 3 top 10s in 13. Last year, no top 10s. 1 top 5 at Talladega in 14 races. So that's, once again, one top 5 in 27 races between the two tracks. So,
and he's 25-1. That just baffles my mind that he's over double the odds of Kyle Larson right now, and he's got similar numbers. And he's on the pole. So
yeah. And speaking, and you were saying with his teammates. So, matter of fact, let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 similar picks between the three of us. So who do you think they are? We have 3 top 3 that are in the reasonable contender area, and 1 mini long shot and 1 big long shot.
I'm going to say Blaney.
Blaney, correct.
Hamlin?
No. I was the only one to not take him.
Bubba?
Yes.
And maybe Kyle? Okay. And then the
last 2.
Longer. LaJoy?
Yes.
The one?
Yeah, we're not letting LaJoy off anytime we can get 100-1.
I'm going to guess McDowell.
No, you're the only one to take McDowell.
Harvick?
Mm-mm. You're the only one to take Harvick.
It's got to be one of these nights.
It's a 30-1 shot.
Jones? Jones? I was looking for Jones or Almirola. Be one of those 2.
So those are those picks that we've all agreed upon. And getting back to Hendrick, so Elliott, you're the only one to not take Elliott. So I took Elliott was actually my last one. I did all my picks, and I realized, hey, I've got a little extra money left. And then that's why I put Elliott in there, or else I would not have taken him. But look, I mean, reasonably, he's got 4 top 10s in his last 5, a couple of runner-ups. That's nice. But average-wise, he's not been particularly great at the track. Yeah, he crashed last year, but led 31 in the Coke race, 10th in the 500. He does have 2 Talladega wins. He's won at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. So he's a good driver, solid, but he hasn't yet elevated himself yet to where he really should be equal to like Blaney or Hamlin. He should be like that next. He should be more like Kyle Busch area.
If he was, I probably would have been more apt to take him. But I looked at he hasn't won there in Cups. I'm like, it's such a fluky race that he doesn't really thrive in those situations. He won Talladega last fall, so I was like, that's the good. He looked good in Atlanta last year in Super Speedway, 10th in the 500. So I'm like, he's there, but is he there for the favorite numbers? That's why I went elsewhere.
The number. Yeah.
Because I looked at his Daytona 500 finishes, and people don't. This is a different race because you're a little more pumped in this one than it's the big Super Bowl. He hasn't responded in this race. 37th, 14th, 33rd, 17th, 17th, 10th. Those are his finishes. Oh, I'm sorry, he had that runner-up in there. But he wasn't runner-up. You got to look at that runner-up on the final lap. It was Kozlowski and Logano, the fiery crash, and Kyle slammed in there, and Cindric slammed. He was probably more back in the top 10, and just everybody wrecked, and he ended up second. So, but if the Hendrick guy is going to win, that's my pick. I feel like yesterday or last night showed a lot with Chase. He was the slowest in qualifying, and I use in quotes, between the Hendrick guys. But don't you just feel like he's got something for the race more than those 3? Because it feels like those guys are always.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I try not to even get myself involved in any of that pre-500 stuff. It just it never computes that much.
No, and they don't have any practice. And like Denny Hamlin mentioned, even the practice session tomorrow on Saturday, he's like, nobody's practicing. He's like, if you're practicing, you're just checking ride height, or you don't have a very good race car and you're trying to make it better. And he goes, so in theory, you don't want to pick those guys anyway. So he said, nobody's really going to practice. So we're kind of going the race. Nothing's really going to change. So that's why it's easy to make these picks now, because there's nothing that's going to sway our mind between these duels tonight than for the race, because the duels are run at night. There's more grip. It's a different race. It's 60 laps. It's half the field. There's not enough energy to build a second lane. Nobody wants to wreck. They want their Daytona 500 cars. So I just don't think anything you're going to see in the duels is going to be a byproduct of what you're going to see in the 500. It's just So
I'm not really going to pay attention.
That's why I feel like with Elliott, he just, oddly enough, the worst of the 4 Hendrick qualifiers, but I feel like he's the best.
Out of the 4.
Yeah.
Because none of us took Byron.
No.
Even though he won the Coke race just a couple years ago.
Yeah, he's decent on super speedways away from Daytona. But then you look at his Daytona actual finishes, and specifically the Daytona 500, he finished 23rd, he finished 21st, he finished 40th, he finished 26th, 37th, and
That's not
38th.
too good.
That to me does not scream 16-1 that I'm like, I'm going to punt on that one
Yeah,
too.
because he's been involved in 6 wrecks out of his 10 starts at Daytona, including his last 3. So he should not be 16-1.
No, even the years he started on the front row, he finished 21st. And you look at in February 14th and 21st, the Valentine's Day, 26th. Even the Coke Zero Sugar 400 that year, 2021, he started second, finished 37th. So it really doesn't matter. Granted, they can show up, he can avoid trouble and have a car to win. He just hasn't proven to get to the end.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So 16-1 again was too steep for me to.
Yeah, and you and I were more the similar, where we kind of stayed away from a lot of the favorites this week. It's just not the week to take favorites, unless you're going to do like CJ and take them all, basically, and just hope that one of them gets your money back. Then you look at Penske, and let's keep in mind, they're basically defending champ. Austin Cindric got the win last year. So you got Logano. Now, I did not take Logano, even though I could totally understand why, again, whether it's he liked him or not, CJ, or it's just part of taking all the favorites. But he was somebody that I was close to taking. It was almost like if I didn't take Elliott, I probably would have taken Logano on the last one because, look, he's been pretty decent there. He's got the 500 win. He has the 3 Talladega wins. But what really ruined it for me with Logano is no top 10s in his last 7. He has led a lot of laps during that stretch, but he's just in a bad luck kind of, and I kind of look at that myself. When I'm looking at these luck races, I tend to stay away from drivers that are in the midst of a bad luck run. And I go with the guys, obviously, that are in a nice run. It's just luck, as Kyle Busch said, it's a big part of it.
100%. I'm the same way. That's why I avoided him. Because last year, you just look at last year, just this next-gen car in general, and you throw Atlanta in there. These were his worst tracks by far. And he was 21st at Daytona 500, 9th in the first Atlanta race. Remember, there's chaos and wrecks at the end of that one. 32nd in the first Talladega, 26th in the second Atlanta, 12th in Daytona, the 400, and 27th in the fall Talladega race. And then he was 26th and 27th, respectively, in the pair Daytona races in 2020, 12th and 23rd in 2021. That doesn't scream race winner to me. And we've seen Logano in the past. We know he's an aggressive driver. He's admitted that. Well, a lot of times that aggression level gets you in trouble in Daytona. So I just didn't trust him at 14-1 for the, again, you got to, like you said, you look at the stats, look at the luck. He doesn't have it. I just don't trust it's all this thing going to happen now. So, yep, faded him as well.
Now, Blaney, as we said, he could end up as the favorite, and we understand why. He's got the Coke 400 win just a couple of years ago. He was 4th in this race last year, leading 36 laps. Runner-up in the Daytona 500 twice. He's got 2 Talladega wins. He's got an Xfinity Daytona win. He is just, right now, one of the best drivers at this racetrack. And he seems to be destined at some point to probably, he's got his Coke win, but I think he's one of these drivers that is more than likely either he's destined to win a 500 or 2, or he'll be one of the drivers by the end of his career that you'll look at and go, how in the world has he never won a 500?
Yep, I feel like it just seems like this is his year, right? Winless last year, still makes it a round of 8. His last win came at Daytona in 2021, regular season finale. He just feels like he's on the cusp. He was burned by what he last year how did. He felt he had the car to win and his teammate blocked him. I feel like out of Penske, this is the guy to go. And I found some other Logano stats that I'll tie it into this. The last time a defending Cup champion won the Daytona 500, 2000, the Dale Jarrett guy again. It's only happened twice since 1978.
Another reason
that
to
the
pass on
defending
Logano.
Cup champion. So I'm like, why would he's the Mr. Trend himself. Every even numbered year he's in the championship 4 and he wins the championship. So if you just follow these trends,
No.
he's not winning Sunday. Blaney, since the start of the 2020 season, only Denny Hamlin has as many wins on super speedways as Ryan Blaney. Blaney tops everybody in average finishing position. He's the second most top fives, tied for the most top tens, and also has the third most laps led in that span. The only thing he's missing is actually winning the race. I feel like you had Dale Earnhardt as the top speedway driver. Then it kind of evolved to Earnhardt Jr. Keselowski kind of took over for a while. Hamlin's probably got the king, the trophy now. I feel like Blaney's next. He's that good. I feel like he always seems to be there. He has 2 top 4 finishes in his last 3 Daytona 500s. It just seems fitting. He'd go winless and then start 2023 with a win. Truex went winless last year and won the Clash. Why not Blaney go winless last year and won the Daytona 500? And you're getting a good number on him at 12-1. I feel like that's to me right now. He's a Ford, so if the Ford trend, as Hamlin said, they got better. How do you get better than from finishing 4th last year? You're already right there. It's like, all right, if you get better, then you win. So if he can avoid the trouble,
that's it.
And we know he's my pick to win his duel tonight, and I think he can win the Daytona 500.
Well, that's the thing is, if he stays out of trouble, it's going to be hard for him not to win.
It is. The only thing is, I'll tie in the duel too, real quick, because I know we're not really going to touch much on that because there's not much you can take away. I hope he doesn't win the duel tonight. Only in this, the last driver to win a duel in the Daytona 500 the same year, Matt Kenseth in 2012. That's the only time in the last 18 years, and there's 5 times since '96 that the duel winners won the Daytona 500. So if you start taking these trends, no front row starters, no duel winners, stay clear of Joey Logano. You can steer clear of Austin Cindric. Hamlin is the only driver to win back-to-back Daytona 500 since 1994-95, Sterling Marlin. That's it. And they had Kelly Yarborough in 93 and 94, or 83 and 84, and Richard Petty in 73 and 74. I'm not naive enough to think out of those names, Richard Petty, Kelly Yarborough, Cindric's going to join that list. So the trends are kind of showing you something here, and I feel like Blaney is that trend that he's the trendy pick for a reason.
You've invested your most money on him, and I've invested my most money on him this week. And by the way, you can get all of our totals on racereviewonline.net, including our fantasy teams. That's already been up there for the past week or so, as well as our futures, which have you posted the futures already?
I think so. I'll go look.
Futures
I think they're up there.
And
the next one will be
and we'll talk more about the futures on our show next week because we'll have a little bit more time in the beginning of the show. All right, and then by the way, speaking of Cindric, he's 20-1, which is I can understand his defending champ. And let's keep this in mind though. He's actually been pretty good at Daytona so far.
Yeah.
He's all top 15s and 2 top 5s, and he's got a win in the Xfinity Series at Daytona. So
he's won. If it wasn't for that trend, because I felt like last year I followed more trends because this is a new car. I'm like, let's follow trends, and it led me to greener pastures. If it wasn't for that trend, I mean, he won this race. He was 3rd in the Coke Zero Sugar 400, and like you said, the Xfinity race he won. He technically has won the Speed Weeks race for 2 straight years. He won the Xfinity race in 21, the Daytona 500 last year. So that other trend to say he could go three straight years with a win in Speed Weeks. Or does that occur in the duel? Maybe that occurs in the duel tonight, and but he's not a bad pick for 20-1. That's pretty good odds to get the defending winner of this race. It was 2 top 3s in this race last year. And remember, I think he was the top 10 at Talladega in one of the races last year.
So he'll be a good fantasy play.
100% be a great fantasy play.
Okay. Also, sticking with the Fords, so the Wood brothers, of course, has Harrison Burton, and I'm the only one that put money on Burton, I think. So I did put a couple of bucks on him. He is on my fantasy team, so there's a reason for that. And he actually did well at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. So it would not be a surprise if that eventually moves over to Cup. Also, Stuart Haas. So Harvick could be his last Daytona 500. So you do have that going for you. And the fact that he is 25-1. That's a pretty nice number on Harvick. Now, the problem with Harvick is that he hasn't been the same Daytona driver for a while. before this run of 2 top 10s in his last 13 and only 54 laps in his last 11 at Daytona, he was really up there as one of the better Daytona drivers. So something hasn't gone right, but he's a 500 champ, and it is his last 500, and he's 25-1.
And he's changed his approach, and that's what I like. It used to be the last few years because those stats, I just fade them. But then that's what's good about being in person and seeing it and talking to these drivers is I've noticed something, I've talked to them about it, and it's true, and this is the Stewart-Haas guys, this is going to be their game plan. They're going to fall to the back. They don't care about stage points. They've done this the last several Daytona 500s is we just need to be there in the end. It doesn't matter the first 2 stages. Who cares about stage points in race 1? Let's be there in the end. And that's what Harvick has done. They faded, and then you're going to look in the final stage with about 20, 30 to go. There he's going to be. He did it last year. And remember, he was running the top 3 or 4. He got caught up in that wreck with Larson and Noah Gragson. And
it happens anyway sometimes. So.
It is. So it really doesn't matter. But at least he's there. And then 2 years before that, he was in the top 5. He did last to the end. He's got a Ford. His teammate Chase Briscoe was 3rd last year. Eric Almirola was 5th. So he was there. So I felt for 25-1, the sentimental favorite. Busch Light, they sent me a promo that I wrote about last week that if Kevin Harvick wins and he sign up, it's free to sign up. You got to be 21 or over. If he wins, they're going to draw out of the people that signed up. You're going to win $2 million. Wow. So it's free. So I'm like, well, why not take the odds of $2 million? So I signed up, had my wife sign up, and like, hey, if he wins 25-1, I'm like, we're going to bet on him too because – why not for 25-1? It just seems like that. It's that sentimental feeling, right? And I wrote about this too. Is what is for this year? What's the story for the Daytona 500? Because we've had some good stories lately. 2017, Kurt Busch, first Daytona 500 win. It also happened to be Tony Stewart's first win as an owner. He was 0 for 18 or 19 in his career. First Daytona 500, he doesn't compete in. He's sitting on the pit box. They win. I thought that was a pretty good story. 2018, Austin Dillon takes the 3 car to victory lane 17 years later to the date of Dale Earnhardt dying. That 3 car goes to victory lane. 2019, Denny Hamlin wins a month after J.D. Gibbs, Joe Gibbs' other son, passed away. Denny Hamlin was really good friends with him. That's why he's the number 11. He wins the Daytona 500. 2020, we saw the Newman crash. Hamlin win again. That's a big story. 2021, Michael McDowell, 0 for 457, wins the Daytona 500. Last year, Austin Cindric, rookie winner. Chase Briscoe went from sleeping on couches, almost quitting racing, to finishing 3rd. What is this year's story? I feel like the winner always picks it, or the Daytona always picks the winner, like Indy does. Kevin Harvick in his final Daytona 500 would be a hell of a story to win this race.
Maybe the other one is the driver we all have a pick on, and that's Eric Jones.
100%. He'd be another big one. Jimmy Johnson as his off. And Eric Jones was caught up in that same wreck with Kevin Harvick last year. He was running the top 5.
He looked good. He looked like he might have won that race. Yep.
Those are the type of drivers that they're not going to be the flashy. You might pick them and like, man, these guys told me to pick Eric Jones. He's 30th in the first stage. That's by design. I don't think they're going to get up there and mix it up. It doesn't help if you just got to be there in the end. And he's proven. He's won Daytona before. I go with guys that know how to win this race. He hasn't won this race. He won the 400, but he knows how to win on the super speedway. So, yeah, that's another great story if he can get a win. The 43 car with Richard Petty, the last win prior to Darlington, the 43 car, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona. So
he led 22 laps in the Coke race last year, most he's ever led. And he has a couple top 5s at Talladega. And like you said, he's got the win at Daytona. So that's one of the long shots, as is the same. Jones is 30-1, just like a couple of Harvick's teammates, Preece Preece is 30-1. Briscoe is also 30-1. And you and I have Preece, and you and I have Briscoe. So Preece was a no-brainer for me, hearing you guys talk about him as often as you did, especially when I looked at his numbers and saw that the last time he raced in the Cup Series in 2021, he finished 6th and 4th at Daytona. Yeah. So I was like, whoa, wait a second. Okay. So he's definitely in there then. Meanwhile, Briscoe, like you mentioned, third in the race last year, has a couple top fives in the Xfinity Series at Daytona. So yeah, those were a couple of those long shots at 30-1 that made a lot of sense.
And I feel like they're going to learn where I say don't take a lot from the duels you see tonight. The one thing that I will take is seeing how these three Stewart-Haas guys, Priest, Almirola, and Briscoe are on the same duel. So they can work together, and they can try out, like last year, the way Cindric beat Blaney was he tried that move in the duel on the last lap.
Okay.
They tried it, and it worked. These three can work together and learn something because their 500 is going to end under nighttime conditions on Sunday. The sun will be set. So you can learn your end of race moves. You're not going to learn setups, but you might learn some moves. Briscoe was there last year. They said Ryan Preece in 3 Daytona 500 starts has 2 top 10s with JTG. Now he's with a team that's probably going to say, hey, you 4 go right on back. You're going to be there in the end. He can do that. Almirola, he's won Talladega. He's won the Coke Zero Sugar 400. We saw how quick, again, Ford, they were good in qualifying last night. They've shown speed, and if they're going to race even better, you're getting 3 Stewart-Haas drivers for between 25 and 30-1.
You could just say, hey, I'm just taking those 4 drivers.
Yep, and one of them has a good shot at winning. Priest, to me, we talked about it last week. He's, to me, the Ross Chastain of the 2023 season. He's going to be that guy that's going to pop out of nowhere. What better start than win the Daytona 500?
Get it over with right away. Also, at this level here, we have Keselowski and Buescher teammates. And Buescher, I took Buescher, and CJ took Buescher. Interesting, as one of his long shots. And then CJ also, by the way, took Keselowski. So he took both of those drivers. And why not for Buescher? 5 top 10s, 3 top 5s in 14 races. That's pretty good for Buescher. So he's not usually that good statistically at any other track. He does have a runner-up in the Xfinity Series at the track. Keselowski, it is kind of strange to see Keselowski where he is as far as the odds are concerned. But look, the thing with Keselowski, of course, is just going to be, I don't know. Last year, I need to see something out of Keselowski this year that says that he's just going to be a different driver.
Yeah, because last year he led 67 laps. He won the duel, but he finished 9th. He was overly aggressive. And then he come back in August, and he was 35th. So it's like, what are they going to try to do? I feel like this year they need to be a little more conservative. They were overly aggressive. They won their duels up front, so I get it. But they started, other than that 9th place finish, it went all downhill from him from there. They need good finishes to accumulate points early. They don't want to get behind. So a good day for them might just be a pair of top 10s instead of being as aggressive as you need to be to win. Granted, if you're there in the end, as Keselowski has said in the past, if I'm there in the end, I feel like you beat the lottery at that point. You don't know when you're going to be there.
And he's never won a 500.
No, that's the key is he's not won, and the series champions have just not done good there at Daytona. None of the last 12 points-paying Daytona races were won by a driver that has won a championship before.
Interesting. Yeah, because the thing with Keselowski was the fact that he's 18-1. I think he should also have been like Buescher at 30-1.
I would have snagged him at that. 18-1, that's why I went more on. I feel more comfortable with Blaney. Like I've always learned too over years of learning this betting thing is don't chase. Go with what you feel is right. And I feel like if I at 18-1, I'd be chasing Keselowski, whereas I have a better feeling at Blaney. Throw more money that way because trust your gut. And I trusted Blaney over because there's nothing about him that you look at all these, how good as he was at Talladega. You look at his entire career at Daytona, he's only won once. And it was in the Coke Zero Sugar.
And he only has 3 top 5s.
Yeah. So I just felt I'd be chasing him at 18-1 when he's the same odds as Bubba Wallace. He's got a couple runner-ups in his last 4 times. So I'm like, I'm going to go that direction.
Yeah, and before we talk about Wallace and those other and the other Chevys, you got to take a look at is it McDowell? You have McDowell, right?
McDowell. I do. Yeah.
Not Chevys. So we're going to talk about the Toyotas. McDowell, as you said, that was the thing that kept me away from him. Is just come on, he's going to win twice. That's it. It's just come on. I mean, that's just that. Talk about that. Might even be a big. That to me, that's bigger odds than winning once. Of course, it is. I mean, it sounds like it. Maybe I sound stupid, but it's just Some people are, no, if he's won before, that means he can win. No, I think that's even crazier to think. I could buy one. Two, I just can't buy it.
It would be hard. And I looked at his Daytona 500 finishes. 2018, he was ninth. 2019, he was fifth. 2021, he was first.
Good
2022,
fantasy
he was
pick.
seventh. Great at Talladega last year. Wasn't he runner up? I think in the fall race, or second or third. He was up front for that the fall race, and then the spring race. I think he had a top. I think he was top 10 all super speedways last year. So getting him for that number. To me, he's a comparison to Michael Waltrip. He went 0 for 463 before he won. McDowell's 0 for 357. So it's like they're kind of similar. Michael Waltrip won his races at Daytona.
Good point.
Maybe McDowell, but for 35 to 1, I'm like, that's right. You're getting almost double the number of what you're getting Keselowski for with the same amount of wins.
And you might be able to get better than 35 to 1. So
you probably could after the duels tonight. Because if I were them, I'd draft early. If you got a chance to win, go win. If you don't, maybe fade, just because if you got a good piece, you got a good car, you don't have the resources like these big teams have to rebuild it, where keeping in one piece, if he doesn't finish the duel good, he's starting further back, better odds our way. So, but for 35 to 1, an opening for him like that, I like it. I'd take it.
Also, as we mentioned with Wallace and his teammate Reddick, new teammate. So that should be interesting because, of course, we all took Wallace. He has 3 runner-ups in 11 races at Daytona. He's got a Talladega win. One of the runner-ups was in this race last year. The last 5 races, 11th, 2nd, 17th, and 5th. Very impressive. So he's a no-brainer. I'm the only one that took Reddick. The only thing that I was a little bit unsure of were the odds. He's a little, he's up there at 20 to 1, but he has 2 top 5s and a runner-up in his last 3 races at Daytona. He was runner-up in the Coke race, which was the last one, of course, last year at Daytona. And he crashed 4 times in his in 7 races over his career, but he's only crashed once in his last 4. So again, he's getting lucky. He was unlucky early. He's getting lucky again. And he does have a Daytona win in the Xfinity Series. So that's the reason why. And he's Wallace's teammate. So I figured, hey, if Wallace is going to be up there, chances are Reddick might be up there too.
And Reddick, he's one that he's seen those finding crashes. He's gotten better. Wallace, with the luck, he's Talladega, first win, rain delay, he came out of nowhere. He came in the middle, got the lead, and he was a deserving winner. He was going to probably be in a run for that if it ran full distance, but luck. And then 2 of his last 3 Daytona starts are runner-ups. And then I looked since 2020, the same span as I just gave the stats of Blaney and Hamlin, he's tied for the 3rd most top 5 finishes in that span. And the only 2 in front of him are Blaney and Hamlin. So, all right, well, if we're talking those 2 up here, and he's right, the only thing he's missing is a win. And he said runner-up last year to Cindric. I like what he's doing, and you get him for 18 to 1. That was, to me, a no-brainer.
You're getting better odds in Wallace than Larson.
I think he should be more up with the Kyle. He should probably be the 14 to 1 range. But and what's crazy enough is we know his stats. He was 15 to 1 for the Coke Zero Sugar 400 last year. That he finished 11th in. It's like he did terrible. And you're getting better odds, and nothing's changed. I'm like, well, of course. I don't know why they fell to me, but they fell to me, so let's take it. So, yeah, he's a strong play for Daytona.
And then with Joe Gibbs, you got Hamlin, of course. He's the big dog there. And you actually that was the other favorite that you took, which, again, makes sense. If you're going to take 2 of the favorites, you go with Blaney and Hamlin. 11 top 5s, 3 wins, 3 500 wins. But keep in mind, he did crash the last 2 races and has no top 10s in his last 3. It's kind of why I stayed away from him. I'm trying to stay away from the favorites in this luck race, and I just think that maybe he's at that point where he's now got a little bad luck on his side.
Yeah, and I went the sentimental thing for him too with 2019 getting that win. It was when J.D. Gibbs, like I talked about earlier, passed away. Well, Coy Gibbs, the other brother, passed away unexpectedly the night of the Cup finale in Phoenix last year. And the Gibbs fans been obviously reeling because of this. I mean, why would you not be grieving? That's a tough loss. And they keep saying, we're not going to make any statements over it. Let us grieve the process. 100% understandable. Well, Hamlin brought him a win last time. I feel like he's motivated to do it again. And we know his talent on super speedways. And you're giving me a guy that's won 3 Daytona 500 races, and he'd be one of, I think, 6 guys to win 4 more, or no, he's one of 6 guys now.
He might have another.
Maybe one of 3 guys. And it'd be fitting to look back at the end of his career and like, this dude has never won a championship, but he's tied for the second most Daytona 500 wins. And you get him for 12-1. I just feel like that's.
Yeah, Hamlin and Blaney should be 8-1.
That's what I feel. They some reason at the 12-1, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason why coming into this race, Kyle Larson should have the same odds as that 3 times. So while they say that, I am going to take it. I'm going to cash in as much as I can. That's why I went more his way.
Bell's another one that shouldn't even be 25-1. Bell, no top 10s in 6 Daytona races, crashed 4 out of 6. And only 1 top 10 in 6 Talladega races. He has not figured it out. Now, he's good in the Xfinity Series, so he's like Truex. He hasn't figured it out yet for whatever reason in the Cup Series. But until he figures it out, he should be 30 or 40-1. So, obviously, we all stayed away from Bell this week. And then Gibbs is just – there's no way you can take Gibbs because he's never raced in a Cup Series race before. But – hey, Cindric won last year, so I guess anything is possible. I guess the only thing, though, is that Cindric did race before he raced and won the 500. He had a previous start the year before.
That's where we'll segue a 50-1 here. I'll segue into that. There's only been 2 instances in 64 years that a driver making their first Daytona 500 start won the race. 1959, the inaugural race.
That doesn't count.
Lee Petty. And the second one was Trevor Bayne in 2011. Yeah. I'm not naive enough to think that all of a sudden.
And that was, what did it do? It was like, what is that?
Yeah. I just don't think Ty Gibbs is going to just join that list. A rookie, his counterpart this year, Noah Gragson, actually made the 500 last year. So that trend follows him.
Yeah, Gregson is actually a better choice than Gibbs.
Yes.
And matter of fact, we both picked him. Why not? 5th in the 400 race, crashed into the 500, and he does have a win in the Xfinity Series at Daytona. And he's always been good at this type of racing.
He's 2020, he won the Xfinity race there. Last year, he was 3rd. He said he was 5th the last Cup race in Daytona with the Beard Motorsports team. He was 5th in the 400. He was in the race last year, so he has the experience. This car he's driving, Ty Dillon drove it to an 11th place finish last year, mind you. He was running the top 10. Gragson, in my opinion, is a better than Ty Dillon. You're giving him that car. We saw what Eric Jones did as a teammate to him. Now you give him Jimmy Johnson as a teammate, who it only helps the knowledge, and he's 50-1, which is the same odds that Austin Cindric opened up with last year before he dropped to 28-1 at race time. So at 50-1, it's a very similar counter as Austin Cindric was last year. He's technically a rookie in the series, but he's not a rookie in this race. I just feel like, again, another trendy pick. The trend favorite should be Blaney. The trend sleeper should be Noah Gragson.
Not just Jones, but Eric Jones. Not just Johnson, but Eric Jones.
Yeah.
So
you got
those are good teammates to have. He's got the extra one.
He knows how to win. Yep, he's won at Talladega. Gragson he knows how to get the victory lane on a super speedway. In fact, he won the 2022. So last year, the Xfinity race at Talladega, he won it. So I like if he can stay out of trouble, which again, some of these teams that don't have the budget yet of these big teams, they just ride in the back.
That's why you get a lot of long shots.
Yeah. So at 50-1, if he's there and he knows how to win, and he's in a car that was in 11th last year, I like those odds, especially if he has teammates at the end helping him. So I feel like he's the trendy sleeper pick right now. That's why I invested a little more on his way to win $200.
I'm the only one that took Haley and AJ Allmendinger. I'm actually surprised you did not take Allmendinger.
I almost did.
Because he's really been good in the Xfinity Series. The last couple of years, he's got 4 top 5s and 2 runner-ups. He's led 142 laps in his 6 Xfinity Series races in that span. He has not made a start in the Cup Series since 2018, and in his last 4 starts in the Cup Series, 3rd, 10th, and 8th. So I thought he was a no-brainer for me as a long shot, and I also thought Haley was. He's got a Coke 400 win, and he has 2 wins at Daytona in the Xfinity Series. So
Yeah, Haley. I don't know why. I kind of was running out of money because I went the $5 on the 330 to 1
yeah, see,
guy.
I did
I
$2 and $2. You went a little bit.
I went a little more. Those would be. I know it's not like Elliott. Like he'd be one of them if I want to put up. These would be the top 2 that like the best of the rest. They're the 2 because these are Haley's best tracks. He is Mr. Super Speedway. I feel like after Blaney, when he's going to become the Hamlin of it, Haley's going to be the next to take it. Haley is 5 of his 8 NASCAR wins, counting Cup and Xfinity, are on super speedways.
That's impressive.
His only Cup win is at Daytona. This is the Coke Zero Sugar 400.
And Bovada, by the way, I looked at it this morning, and that's why I put money on him this morning, 66 to 1.
Oh, even better. Oh, that's an even better. That's his first ever Daytona start in Cup. He won. He was 6th in the 2021 Coke Zero Sugar 400. So last night I don't look at their qualifying speed. That doesn't bother me. They have good race cars. Kaulig always does.
And you know what? That's probably why, because his odds were 40 to 1. They probably upped his odds because of the speed last night.
Qualifying, which is fantastic because that doesn't matter. And Allmendinger, you said his last Daytona 500 he raced in, he finished 3rd. And he mentioned too yesterday the 2017-2018 seasons, 3rd, 8th, and 3rd, right in a row. He raced for JTG. He goes, those cars weren't necessarily capable of winning the race. This car is. I can win this race. So it's like, if he did that with that car, what's he going to do with this car? With the car with Kaulig that, as I just said, Haley, they provided him. He's one of the best super speedway racers in the game right now. Those are great odds to snag these 2. So, yeah, that would be the best of the rest for me. I would not be shocked if either one won. But Haley, the fact that it dropped down to 66 to 1, jump on that now. Because you never know what's going to happen in the duels. If they look at qualifying that close, if he runs well in the duels, it might drop back down to what it was before. But
yep, absolutely.
66 to 1 right now, jump all over that because he can win this race.
And the last couple of drivers to mention, both of you guys put money on Austin Dillon. He's got 2 wins, including a 500 win. He won last year. The last race, Dillon won.
Yeah.
So he's 25 to 1. And the other 2 drivers are Chastain and Kyle. Now, Chastain hasn't yet done well at Daytona, but he's got a Talladega win. So he's done well at Talladega, hasn't figured it out yet, but he crashed both of his times last year with the new car, which is really what made Chastain. So maybe he deserves the benefit of the doubt. The problem were the odds for me at 16 to 1. There's no way he should be at 16 to 1 based on his history at this track. He's crashed 5 times in 9 starts, including the last 3.
Yeah, he scares me at that. But he was 7th in 2021 to 500, so he just scares me of getting crashed. That's why I didn't go his way with this one because I was scared. But Austin Dillon, as you said, won the 400. He was 3rd in this race in 2021. He won a duel that year. He's got Kyle Busch as a teammate. It just feels like for 25 to 1 when you get him at those odds. If I'm going to take Harvick, why would I not take the same guy? Or the same odds. So, yeah, I feel like he's a good one. And his brother, as I mentioned earlier, 100 to 1.
150 to 1, Ty Dillon.
I'm sorry. 11th last year. And then you look at when he was with the Germain car, which was kind of tied to RCR, 6th, 6th, 4th. So if you really look at 4 of his last 7 Daytona starts, he's in the top 11. And he's driving that 77 car, which, oh, by the way, Justin Haley won in his first Cup race in. We talked about Corey LaJoie. I had to throw money on my boy Corey LaJoie because he's always up there. Ty Dillon is teammates with Corey LaJoie. They're gonna have a similar car. So I couldn't neglect both. So I went with my boy LaJoie because you never know. We saw him almost win Atlanta last year. And he has really good Daytona 500 stats.
LaJoie?
8th in 2020, 9th in 2021. He also was 6th in the 400 in 2019, 14th in this race last year, and he's 100 to 1. So why not throw a couple bucks? You're not breaking the bank. If he wins, you're adding more to your bank. If he loses, it's a couple bucks. So But I do like those two as my longer
And
shot.
the final driver that we're going to talk about is Kyle Busch. So yes, maybe we've waited for the best for last, but Kyle will be racing. It's an A car. There's no M&Ms. This is going to be a shock if people just haven't been figuring things out about what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, again, we've all taken them, and it's not just because of it's Kyle. It's because look, he's raced well here. He's got the 2 top 10s last year, leading a combined 35 laps. The best 2 race results for Kyle since 2016, keeping in mind the new car last year. So maybe Kyle's just got something going now with this new car at Daytona. And maybe this is also more importantly, Kyle Busch has never won the Daytona 500.
It just feels, like I said, Blaney used to feel good. Kyle could be that story of Toyota. He's never won with Toyota. He's been close. He was runner-up in 2019. Then he went through a rough stretch, 6th last year, 10th in the 400. Now he's with Chevrolet. What if he wins his first Daytona 500 with a new man? If he's outspoken, he'll probably mention, now you gave me some power. Now I won the race. It just seems like that would be mentioned that to be like winning the lottery. Austin Dillon won last year, the 400. He's won a duel. He's won a Daytona 500. Don't you think Kyle Busch is better than Austin Dillon? And you're giving him the same equipment. And we talked about Reddick was doing pretty good in that car, was getting better. Kyle Busch is in that car. And I can't stress that enough. I think it would be a major story if Kyle Busch was he 0 for 18 or 0 for 17, something like that. And I know it's in my article. I just don't have it pulled up in front of me. It'd be fitting his first Daytona 500 win comes with Richard Childress. I just think that would be – they have momentum. RCR was 2nd and 3rd in the clash. It just feels right. I don't know. If he was that number with last year with Toyota, I'd avoid him. This year, for some reason,
it's a good number. Nothing wrong with 14-1. So getting better odds with Kyle Busch than Kyle Larson. We'll keep saying that. So,
which is baffling.
Shocking.
So baffling.
Yes.
But yeah.
And before we go, though, top 3 picks. So is this going to be Blaney, Wallace?
I'd say Blaney, Wallace,
Kyle?
And Kyle, with my long shot being Gragson.
Okay, well, you top long shot Gragson. I like it.
Yep.
Okay.
I just have a good feeling. I have a good feeling about all 4 of those, which I say that, and I would not be shocked if they all 4 are in the same wreck.
Yes, we know that. I'd probably go top long shot. I don't really, if you want to consider, and I probably, Haley or AJ, that kind of combo there, because they're 40-1. I probably, go with those 2 guys as top long shots. Okay, so next week it's Fontana. So, did they race at Fontana last year?
They did. It was the first year back since the pandemic. They didn't run there in 21.
How was it? Was it okay?
Better. Good. It was a little rough because remember this was the start of all those spins because the next gen they didn't know how with the tire was blowing and they were getting stuck on the track. But the passing was good. They could finally pass again there. Kind of like the 1.5 miles was an improved show. You take the spins out, which again was a learning process of the car. I feel like it was much better than what we've seen. So okay. I don't know why it would get worse. I expect a good race.
And by the way, out of the top matchups, this one seems like the easiest. And how could it not be when Kyle Larson's involved? But out of the head-to-head matchups, and they're all basically even, it's Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott.
Oh my goodness. That is a no-brainer. That is if you're going to bet anything other than the Justin Haley at 66-1 right now, I would jump all. There'd be no reason why Kyle Larson should beat Chase Elliott in the Daytona 500. At least Chase Elliott has a top 10 and has a top 5.
Yes. He has a few of them.
Yeah. Larson mentioned yesterday in his press conference that after he won the pole that he used to think it was luck the why he wasn't doing good, and then he really looked like it's me. There's too much. It's not a luck thing. I'm just not good at it. He just mentioned that. And like, this is the guy that's where it pays to listen to our show, because we have that access to talk and listen to what these drivers say. He literally said yesterday he used to think it was luck. Here, I will, for our viewers, I'm going to find it real quick. I have the quote. I was part of this, and he literally admitted to this, and it was just last night, so we're not talking that long ago.
Last night.
And yeah, and this is his quote. I don't know. I mean, you always study before the race. I don't know. We do it every week. We go over every race, same as for Daytona and Talladega, both. We go and try to probably dive deeper than normal. More of the same tomorrow. But I would like to kind of see how the good guys set themselves up throughout a run to be up towards the front, or whenever they need to be to miss wrecks and stuff. So he's saying, I would like to see. He still doesn't know. And I quote, "It's just a difficult style of racing that I don't know. I just haven't had the best of time in my career. I used to always say it's bad luck, but I don't necessarily feel that way anymore." Yeah, just to try to, as we do with every racetrack, just get better. Why is that
Well,
guy
that sounds like he's
this?
real confident about the race on Sunday.
Yeah, and he's the co-favorite. Like, he literally just – but I've got Chase Elliott, who was runner-up 2 years ago. That is a no-brainer. If Chase Elliott doesn't get caught up in a wreck, he will beat Kyle Larson across that finish line.
Avoid the wreck.
But, yeah, I just don't understand for a guy saying that. But that tells you, though, the odds makers don't know what – this is new to them, too. NASCAR is kind of booming with the betting.
But it's a name recognition, too, yes.
That's what they do.
Kyle Larson, and he must – he's going to get – because I would assume that there are a lot of gamblers out there that are not as educated, of course, and it's Kyle Larson. How can he not?
He's 12-1. How am I getting this? He's won 11 races in 2 years, and he's 12-1. That's a no-brainer. He's on the front row. But yeah, you've actually
and the front row thing was that put it together. That was it.
Yep.
That solidified.
That's why folks subscribe, watch, listen, whatever you need to do to the show, because we will steer you in the right direction. That is not the direction you. And granted, you'll probably win on Sunday, and we're like, well, I guess you were wrong.
Right.
But we have to know before the show. You look at his stats.
That's all it's about.
35 starts, one top five. He's co-favorite. Denny Hamlin, 3 Daytona 500 wins. One more will tie him for second most ever at the same odds. Don't go for name recognition. Go for stats.
This is the place to be. That's why you want to subscribe. Never miss a show. Hope you like the video. If you do, like it. And also, of course, share it with your friends. We'd appreciate that. And if you have any questions or comments at all regarding anything we've talked about, anything we haven't talked about, you want to know something regarding the race, props that maybe there's prop we haven't talked about, you want our opinion on it, anything like that, let us know. And we are here to answer your questions. So we will, again, you are going to have the first IndyCar report previewing a race in the first week of March, correct? Okay.
Yes. Yep. Going to the St. Pete. So yep, a couple. So we'll do Fontana next week, and the week after we'll do IndyCar and.
Matter of fact, our next motorsports show could very well be CJ talking about F1, because he'll be doing that next week, and I think he'll probably end up doing it before Thursday. And again, we're starting off on Thursdays. Normally we were doing it at the beginning of the week. It's either Tuesdays or Thursdays for us, so we're going to try Thursdays and see how it goes. And as long as we get enough traffic for Thursdays, and the odds. So that's the trick. We have to make sure the odds are available early enough on Monday for us to be prepared for the race on producing the show on Tuesday. So, that's going to be the trick is if the odds are out early enough and we're not getting enough traffic because we're starting and producing the shows 2 days earlier, we'll switch back to Tuesdays. So I prefer Thursdays myself. There's a lot going on at the beginning of the week, but if we have to switch it, we'll switch it. So.
Yep, we'll evolve as we need. So.
All right, Great job. Appreciate it. Looking forward to a great season talking NASCAR Cup with you. CJ will be along for the ride at some point talking Cup with us as well. And I'll talk to you next week.
Yep, sounds good. Talk to you then.